It's really mind-blowing sitting back watching so many people, especially so-called black people, feed themselves to the beast. I'm going to repeat that. It's mind-blowing to watch so many people, especially the so-called black Americans, feed themselves to the beast. Now, we've always heard about the mark of the beast coming up back in the 70s, in the 80s. In the 90s, 2000, people had their conspiracy theories. And people said that they were going to refuse the mark, that they would be willing to die before they received that mark. But in 2020, we're watching people willfully submit to the beast and even admit to taking the mark of the beast, whether it be a vaccine with a microchip inside. I've heard so many so-called black people say that they will take it and they will make sure that their children will take it. Now, there's a scripture in the Bible, the book of Matthew, the 7th chapter. Reading from the 13th to the 14th verse, it reads, "Enter ye in at the strait gate." In other words, this gate is very narrow. And it says, "For wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and many there be which go in there." So, in other words, many people are following this path, things that may appear to be popular. They don't want to be ridiculed or talked about or gang stalked. They're peer pressured into doing something that's against God and against their nature. And the rest of that verse reads, "Because strait is the gate and narrow is the way." That's the hard way. That's not the easy way. See, the easy way is the way that everybody goes. You know, you hear people say everybody's doing it. So because everybody do it, it must be okay. And I have to fit in with the crowd. So as long as everybody is doing it, I'm going to do what everybody do, regardless of the fact that they could be running right into a Mack truck or running right off a cliff. But because everybody's doing it, you can't be different and you can't be unique. You have to be like everybody. But it says, "Because strait is the gate and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it." Few there be that find life, although they willfully submit to the beast, because the beast come with love. The beast come with Democrat. The beast come with socialism. In other words, we want to take care of the world. We want to take care of everybody. We want to make sure that you have free health care and free shelter and free school and education. We want to make sure that you have free daycare. We want you to depend upon us, the beast. But many go therein, although it's leading to destruction. Now, I've always been told coming up that if you don't know your history, or if you tend to forget or ignore your history or your past, you're bound to repeat it. And traps are being set every day, every second, every hour for the so-called Black American. There's nothing in life that's free. And there's nothing in life that goes unpunished, that deserves punishment. So because they allow you to loot, because they allow you to riot and protest, as long as they allow you to lash out at the white man and throw your fist in the air and say Black Lives Matter, keep in mind that's a trap that's being set for you. And nothing goes unpunished. I received a revelation just maybe an hour ago, which inspired this video. And I was thinking about that vaccine and how they are making that vaccine, or talking about making the vaccine mandatory. But yet at the same time, they're not holding the pharmaceutical companies accountable. In other words, they get a free pass. They're not liable if you get sick or someone dies from it, or your ear fall off, or somewhere down the line something happened to you. They've already set the motion that they cannot be sued. So there's room, a whole lot of room for error. But yet many submit to the beast. Many say that they will get that vaccine when it comes out, although they put in the media right before your eyes, which many won't read that or listen to it because they're following that path that everybody goes into. So it must be right. Forget about looking at the signs, the red flags that's warning you. Do not feed the sharks. Do not swim in shark-infested waters, but yet, because you're following the crowd, it's okay. We tend to forget about history. We forget about smallpox and how the paleface, better known as the white man, brought smallpox to my ancestors, the so-called Native Americans. The so-called black people forget about the Tuskegee experiment, when those black men were injected with syphilis. You forget about that. You forget about that your life really means nothing to your enemies or to the paleface. Now, I'm not saying all white people are bad. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that you forget easy about history and why you claim to be protesting and why you claim to be shouting Black Lives Matter. You don't want to talk about the black on black violence and crime. You don't want to talk about the black women and the black males are aborting their own children. But now that some sodomites form Black Lives Matter Antifa now took over. And it was always that way from the very beginning, but they just didn't see that. Because a shiny object was placed before their face and took their attention off of purpose, off of reason. And what's interesting is the fact that so much is being revealed, so many demon seeds are being uncovered. Many that spoke out against the government, many that had conspiracy theories, many that talked about the Rothschild and the Bilderbergs and the secret societies and the Masonic order. The ones that went to church and they shouted and talked about how they loved the Lord and they heard his cry. But these same people are now being revealed and uncovered as demon seed. Because in spite of what kind of truth you put before them, they've been blinded not to see the truth. But they're given an excuse not to accept the truth. They will twist the truth to make it something entirely different. It's almost like Trump had become a target word. That's not the word I want to use, but Trump is like a signal word to make people react. And I'm watching some strange reactions to the name Trump. You can mention that name and it just sends people in a tailspin and they start repeating lies with no evidence. And when they're called out on it, they become angry and they will lash out at you. It's like someone that's hypnotized and in a trance. The minute you mention certain words, they will respond to it a certain way. In spite of how much truth is put before you. So there's been a mass hypnotizing of a great number of the population here in America because they submitted to the beast. I spoke on a dream I had in the past about this young black man was being held down by law enforcement and they forced a drug upon him. If I'm not mistaken, it was a needle. And the minute they gave him that drug, he just submitted. Just completely submitted to him. That's what we see happening today. Many are submitting willfully, but yet bewitched into submitting willfully to the beast and refuse to listen to sound reason. It's interesting that the Me Too movement, the Black Lives Matter, you had Bill Cosby that's still locked up. You had so many young black males that were alleged of sexually assaulting someone or raping someone or molesting someone. R. Kelly has been a target for a long time because everybody seemed to care about what happened to women. Women that alleged that they were assaulted decades ago, but yet in 2020, the person that they alleged that sexually assaulted them is now paying for it. But yet, there's now solid evidence that Bill Clinton, the Epstein crew, was caught up in child pedophilia. There's photos out there. And there's not a peeping word. And those same people that lashed out against R. Kelly and Bill Cosby are the same people that ignore Joe Biden and what he's doing out in the open. And they say, I'm still voting for him. But yet, it's alleged that Donald Trump did something. There's no evidence. But they believe it. And they would bring that up every single time that he's a racist, he's a pedophile, he's xenophobic, he's all of these names, he's disrespect women. But there's solid evidence of Joe Biden molesting little girls. You have black people that always talk about Black Lives Matter and how they're being mistreated here in America and how they're being locked up unjustly. But yet, at the same time, they're talking about defunding the police. They're voting and supporting Kamala Harris, which Joe Biden and Kamala Harris both have the same thing in common. They locked up black people. They have a track record, a history of locking up black people. But yet, black people support them because they've been hypnotized and brainwashed into believing that Trump is their enemy, when their enemies, the very ones that enslaved them and put them in the condition they're in today, they still voting for them. If you look at California, the condition of all of these democratic states and how they're falling apart, you have people that would actually leave those conditions and move to a red state and then vote the same way they voted when they were in the state they ran from. In other words, bringing their trash with them and creating another dwelling place like they had before. And they wonder why they're suffering and struggling. But that's off my topic. But the revelation I received earlier today when I was thinking about everything that was going on was Revelation 6 and 8. Now, I've always read this. I've seen this so many times, but I've never seen it in this light. And there's a reason why I brought up the pale face and how you had blacks say that the white man is the devil. But according to Revelation 6 and 8, it reads, So I looked, and behold, a pale horse. Now, pay closely attention to these words, and you can read it for yourself. Revelation 6 and 8. So I looked, and behold, a pale horse. Now, what color is pale? What does a pale horse look like? Now, in most cases, when people read this verse, the first thing they think of is a pale horse and a person that ride upon that horse. But listen to what it says. So I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and the name of him who sat on it was Death, and hell followed him. Now, black people have always said they've been going through hell since their ancestors came out of captivity. They had to deal with hell. Hell followed them. If we look in the average so-called black community, that's hell. You have black people that commit suicide, and there was at one time black people would not commit suicide. The paleface would commit suicide, but not the so-called black people. So now we're living in a time where black people kill themselves. They take themselves out because they get tired of living in hell. But it says, and the name of him who sat on it was death. And hell, or Hades, followed him. And power, in other words, authority, was given to him over a fourth of the earth to kill with the sword, with hunger, and with death. In other translations, it says pestilence or disease. And by the beast of the earth. Now we know the paleface used to always sick dogs or the beast upon the so-called black man. Them dogs, even to this very day, they sick dogs on you. So power was given unto them over the fourth of the earth to kill with the sword, with hunger, and with death, and by the beast of the earth. That paleface is the same one that's riding that horse with that vaccine. The same one that presented or forced the Tuskegee experiment, the smallpox. Because like a video I mentioned in the past about population reduction, how many people remember that video? When I had my Fearless 2005 channel, I spoke on population reduction and how they're trying to reduce the population on Earth. Hence, that's why we have COVID-19 and other diseases that came to this nation. They're reducing the population of the world. So, if you don't know your history, you're bound to repeat it. And I mentioned in a video of the past that black people will go back into captivity. And it just amazes me. It's mind-blowing to sit back and watch you make the same mistakes your ancestors made in the past. Trusting the same Democrats that enslaved you, the same tricks you see them playing now. Because you think it's about them doing it to Trump. But it's really about you. Just think about it. You have non-black people, so-called black Americans that have ancestors that were in captivity. Now you have others like Kamala Harris, Barack Obama, Cardi B. People that came out and said they're not black, but yet now, for political reasons, they're black. And you're falling all over them. And I've told you, time and time again, do not bet on black. I say so-called black because you're not black. You're an Israelite. Your complexion is brown, different shades of brown, not black. But yet, black is political. And as long as you agree to Cardi B, Kamala Harris, Barack Obama, Ilhan Omar, that had not shared the same history as you, as long as you allow them to be black, to partake in your blackness when they are not black, they will come and reap your benefits and then tell you, these same people that you allow in, reap your benefits and then sell you back your benefits for votes. If you vote for me, I will give you free stuff. And it's sad because you're content with that, and they know your reactions because they do it every election time. They do the same thing over and over again, and they get the same results. Your support, your votes, because your grandma did it, your great grandma did it. You're conditioned to fail. So now you become their slaves under blackness and under people of color. So when you accept the title of person of color, you now accept all of the immigrants, legal and illegal, to come and eat at the table that was prepared for you. Or let me rephrase that. The crumbs that was prepared for you, but yet you don't receive the crumbs. They get the meat of the crumbs. And they excel over you and become your Lord, your leader. They're not even from this land, but they will come here and rise above you and then sell you a dream if you vote for them. And they give you just enough to keep coming back. It's a drug. So, population reduction, death, is feeding you that vaccine. Because there's a whole lot of black people, and keep in mind, they're testing that drug on humans. Here in America and over in the continent. Because your life means nothing. And like I mentioned in the start of this video, nothing goes unpunished. And trust me, you will pay for all the damage that you're doing. They know who you are. And you out there, Black Lives Matter, tearing up stuff, looting. When have you ever known the paleface to just let you do something? When has that ever happened? They just let you tear up stuff. Let you riot. Let you loot. Let you beat down people in the street, and the police stand right there and do nothing about it. When has that ever happened? Think. Trust me. When they get what they want, they're coming for you. You will pay for what's happening right now unless you wise up. So feedback, tell me what you think, subscribe, share this video, re-upload this video. Click on the PayPal link and the Cash App link and financially support this channel. Until next time, I'm fearless.